Reagan Tokes was a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. The Anthony Wayne grad was just months away from a degree at Ohio State University when she was kidnapped, raped, and murdered. Her killer, Brian Goldsby, was sentenced to life in prison.
And the Tokes family now focused on helping make sure that doesn't happen to anyone else. And along with the family's immeasurable grief is hope that those efforts will make a difference in our community and all over the country. 13 ABC's Lisa Guyton sat down with Reagan's mother and sister. She joins us now with a story you'll only see right here.
It is hard for a lot of us to imagine that kind of loss. And while it's been tough to press on without Reagan, family, friends, and faith have kept the Tokes family going. And we could all one day benefit from what they're doing in Reagan's memory. 21-year-old Reagan Tokes was full of life.
She was an incredibly determined individual. She was very smart. She loved people. She was a kind, caring, compassionate person.
More than a year after Reagan's death, the reality of the heartbreaking loss is still sinking in.
I still, to this day, sometimes think, I'm just going to wake up. This has been a long, drawn-out nightmare, and this really did not happen. But unfortunately, it did. And it's a journey that I don't wish upon anyone.
The Tokes family nightmare started in February 2017.
I can't even begin to imagine how scared and how awful and just how horrific that couple-hour time frame had to be for her.
Reagan usually checked in with her parents after leaving work. That February night, they didn't get a call, and they weren't able to get a hold of her.
At that point, her phone was just going right to voicemail. We knew something wasn't right.
By the next morning, everyone was frantic, including Reagan's little sister, Mackenzie.
I just knew that something bad had happened.
And later that day, those fears became a reality.
When they told us they believed that they had her and that she had been shot and they found her in the park, it was surreal, and I just kept thinking, you have to have made a mistake. This can't possibly be.
The first few months I couldn't sleep alone. I didn't want to be at home alone. Someone always had to be at my house by the time I got home from school.
That excruciating pain only intensified as the trial started, and the family had to come face to face with the man who killed Reagan.
It is extremely painful to have the details of the terror and torment that your child went through.
One of the places that's helped the family heal is Maumee United Methodist Church. Although the Tokes now live in Florida, Reagan and Mackenzie grew up in this church.
This always holds a special place in our heart because it truly is home.
These walls hold a lot of reminders of Reagan's life.
Because it never failed. We always seemed to be running late on Sunday morning, and Reagan was usually the reason we were running late.
And artwork honoring Reagan hangs in the church entrance.
The picture is representative of Reagan's beauty, and then of course the glass in the center is representative of the tragedy.
Another place that's important to the family is Sidecut Metro Park, the scene of a lot of family activities through the years.
We would always come down and come across the bridge and then go walk.
I think this is just a better place to remember her than anywhere else.
While the family holds on to their memories, they're hard at work on a bipartisan bill with Ohio lawmakers aimed at changing sentencing guidelines for violent offenders and the GPS tracking of offenders. Goldsby was on parole. He was wearing an ankle bracelet when he killed Reagan.
We are living under a false veil of security that doesn't exist, and we need to demand better. It's not fair, it's not right, and it is changeable.
The family is also focused on working to make sure children and adults have access to self-awareness and self-defense classes.
If just one person walks away from one of the self-defense classes feeling like they're more secure and they could hold their own if they were ever in a bad situation, that it's making a positive impact.
The family has already offered a number of classes in the Toledo and Columbus areas.
Her story could be anybody's story. Our story could be anybody's story, and I think that's why so many people have come together through it, because it sort of jolts you into reality of recognizing, oh my gosh, if this could happen to them and her, it could happen to us or me.
Reagan is buried here in Northwest Ohio and in the hearts of all those who loved her.
As bad as this is, it still could have been worse. What if the person was never caught? What if she had never been found? Or we got to have a proper funeral and bury her and honor her.
Today, a big part of honoring the life of Reagan Tokes is about helping others.
It is a bit cathartic to help you process through the pain, knowing you're taking something so awful, so horrible, so tragic, and you're trying to find some good somewhere that will come from it.
In the midst of their immense pain, the Tokes family has truly done so much to help others. In addition to the self-defense programs and the legislation they're working on, the family has also awarded about $120,000 worth of scholarships to both high school and college students. That money was raised at Rally for Reagan, which will become an annual event for the charitable foundation in Reagan's memory. Lee and Diane, Lisa and her husband Toby also say if people would like to help get the legislation passed, they should contact their local lawmakers.
Thank you, Lisa Guyton, for that report. And so that the legislation's down the road, but right now that self-defense stuff is really, I think, having an effect. And one of the things that they both talked about was that they learned you should shout, call 911 in a situation instead of shouting help, because you're actually directing somebody to do something. And that's a takeaway that I even shared with my daughter as well.
You talked with Lisa about that earlier this week, and I had an extended conversation with Lisa and Mackenzie. And we talked more about that legislation you mentioned and some of the frustrations in trying to get legislation passed. Brian Goldsby had 52 infractions while he was in prison. And then he was released. He had been released for 3 months before Reagan was brutally killed. You can join us for this extended conversation on Conklin and Company. That's Sunday morning at 11 right here on 13 ABC.